If you are an Australian senior watching this video right now and own your own home, you need to pay very close attention. There is a growing wave of headlines, social media posts, and even everyday conversations around the dinner table that keep asking one frightening question. Will pensioners be forced to sell their homes in 2026? Some people are saying a new housing law is on the way. Others are warning that retirees could lose their age pension unless they unlock the value sitting in their property. Many seniors feel confused and worried. They are all asking the same thing. Is my home at risk? Today on Australia Pension Hub, we are going to break down the truth behind the Australia 2026 Senior Housing Law discussion. What is actually changing? What is only rumour? Could pensioners really be forced to sell their homes? And how do the Centrelink asset rules truly work when it comes to your primary residence? By the time you finish watching this video, you will have clarity instead of fear. You will understand your rights, the real risks, and exactly what you should do next. Before we go any further, if this kind of clear information helps you, please subscribe to Australia Pension Hub right now so you never miss an important update that could affect your retirement. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications. It only takes a second and it helps us keep bringing you the facts. Let us begin with the biggest fear that is keeping so many people awake at night. Right now, under the existing Centrelink rules, your principal home is exempt from the age pension assets test. That means the house you live in, no matter how much it is worth, is not counted when Centrelink works out whether you qualify for the age pension. If you own a home valued at $600,000, it is exempt. If you own a home valued at $1.5 million, it is still exempt. If you live in a modest rural property, it is exempt as long as it qualifies as your principal residence. This protection
has been one of the foundational pillars of Australia's retirement system for a very long time. The family home is protected. So where are all these 2026 fears coming from? There are three main reasons people are feeling so worried. First, property prices have risen sharply. Many seniors who bought their homes decades ago now sit on properties worth more than $1 million. So their income may be low, yet on paper their wealth looks high. Second, the government continues to discuss housing affordability. Policymakers face pressure to free up housing stock for younger families. Some proposals have talked about encouraging seniors to downsize. Third, there is confusion around aged care reforms, pension means testing adjustments, and superannuation changes that are all due to evolve between 2025 and 2027. When these three issues mix together, rumors spread quickly. Unfortunately, fear spreads even faster. Let us answer the central question clearly and directly. Is there a confirmed 2026 law that forces pensioners to sell their homes? No. There's currently no law that has been passed which forces Australian pensioners to sell their primary residence in 2026. However, and this point is important, there are policy conversations and structural reforms that could indirectly influence housing decisions for seniors. That is exactly what we are going to unpack carefully in the rest of this video. One of the most misunderstood areas is the difference between the age pension assets test and the income test. Centrelink calculates your pension under both tests and pays you the lower of the two results. Under the assets test, financial assets such as savings, shares, investment properties, superannuation once you are over pension age, and certain other assets are counted. But once again, your principal home is excluded. There's an important detail that follows. If you choose to sell your home, the money you receive becomes an assessable asset after a temporary exemption.
Period ends. Here's how that works in practice. If you sell your principal home and you intend to buy another one, the sale proceeds can be exempt from the assets test for up to 24 months under certain conditions. During that period, Centrelink applies a deemed income rate to those funds. But if you sell your home and you do not buy another principal residence, the money becomes fully assessable under the assets test on a permanent basis. This is the point where fear often creeps in. Some seniors worry that if housing policies change, for example, if the government ever limited the exemption for high-value homes, they could be pushed towards selling. At this moment, there is no legislated change that removes the home exemption. Still, it is worth talking about realistic scenarios. Could the government ever change the rules? Technically, yes, any parliament can amend Social Security legislation. But politically, removing the family home exemption would be one of the most controversial retirement reforms in Australian history. Why? Because millions of retirees depend on that protection. Many of them are asset-rich but income-poor. If the home were suddenly counted, a large number of pensioners would lose full or partial payments overnight. That would trigger massive political backlash. Instead of forcing sales, recent policy trends have focused on incentives. One clear example is the pension loan scheme, now known as the Home Equity Access Scheme. It allows eligible seniors to access a voluntary government-backed loan that uses their home equity. It does not force you to sell. It simply lets you draw fortnightly payments or lump sums against the value of your property. Repayment usually happens when the home is eventually sold or from your estate. This option is completely voluntary. There are also downsizer contribution rules. These allow eligible seniors to put the proceeds from selling their home into superannuation, even if they have already reached normal
contribution caps. Once again, this is an incentive, not a force. So where does the year 2026 fit into this picture? Several aged care reforms are scheduled to expand around 2025 and 2026. Under aged care means testing, your home is generally exempt if a spouse still lives there. In certain residential aged care situations, the home may be partially accessible, but only up to capped values. This is not a brand new idea, yet adjustments to those caps and thresholds can easily create confusion. Another discussion that sometimes appears in policy circles is whether very high-value homes, for example multi-million-dollar properties, should remain completely exempt under pension means testing. Remember, discussion is not the same as law. Let us look at a realistic example. Imagine Margaret, who is 74 years old. She owns a Sydney home worth $1.8 million. She receives a part-age pension because she has limited financial assets and only a small super balance. Under current rules, her home is fully exempt. She keeps her pension. If a hypothetical reform in the future capped home exemptions at $2 million, nothing would change for Margaret. If a hypothetical reform capped the exemption at $1 million, which is not current law, only the amount above that threshold might be assessed, but that idea remains purely speculative at this stage. Right now, under the legislation that exists today, her home is fully exempt. What should seniors actually watch for as we move through 2026? Number 1, keep an eye on changes to pension asset thresholds. Every March and September, the pension thresholds are indexed. If those thresholds rise more slowly than inflation, some pensioners may lose part of their payments over time, even without any housing law change. Number 2, pay attention to aged care means testing reforms. The rules that apply if you move into residential aged care are different from the rules that apply while you still live independently at home.
Number 3, notice any state-based property tax discussions. Some states are reviewing land tax structures and stamp duty models. These do not directly affect the age pension home exemption, yet they can still influence housing decisions. Now, let us address the emotional side of this issue. For many seniors, the home is not just an asset on a spreadsheet. It is security. It holds memories. It represents independence. The fear of being forced out of that home touches a deeper anxiety about losing control in later life. That is exactly why misinformation spreads so quickly. It connects to real emotional concerns. But policy reality moves slowly. Major structural changes go through consultation papers, parliamentary debates, media scrutiny, and staged implementation. There is no sudden overnight 2026 confiscation law waiting around the corner. That does not mean seniors should ignore policy discussions. Here is what smart retirees should do instead of panicking. First, stay informed from official sources, such as Services Australia and Treasury releases, rather than relying on viral social media posts. Second, understand your full financial position. Know your asset levels, your super balance, and your pension eligibility under the rules that exist today. Third, consider voluntary strategies only if they suit your personal situation. Some seniors choose to downsize because maintaining a large home becomes physically and financially demanding. Others use the Home Equity Access Scheme to increase their income without selling. Those decisions should always be personal choices, never fear-driven reactions. Let us also talk about the intergenerational housing pressure that sits in the background. Australia faces a genuine housing supply challenge. Younger Australians struggle to enter the market. That creates political pressure to unlock existing housing stock. But unlocking does not automatically mean forcing sales. It usually means incentives, grants, stamp duty,
concessions, greater super flexibility, or equity release programs. Any form of compulsion would be politically explosive. Here is a key point that many people overlook. Even if future governments ever considered counting part of the home value, transitional arrangements would almost certainly apply. Governments rarely introduce sweeping changes without grandfathering provisions that protect existing pensioners. That would mean current retirees might stay under the old rules, while new retirees fall under any new ones. Again, this is hypothetical, yet historically that is how Australian social policy tends to evolve. Why are some headlines so dramatic? Because fear generates clicks. A calm headline that says seniors are encouraged to consider downsizing does not go viral. A headline that claims the government is about to force pensioners to sell their homes does. That is the difference between careful policy nuance and online outrage. Let us shift now to practical protection strategies. If you feel worried about possible future changes, here are actions that put you back in control. Review your estate plan. Make sure your will, your enduring power of attorney, and your super beneficiary nominations are all up to date. Understand aged care costs well before you might need care. Planning early gives you more options. Avoid making rush decisions based on rumors. And most importantly, remember that as of today, your principal home remains exempt under the Age Pension Assets Test. I want to speak directly to those of you who may be supporting elderly parents. If you hear your mom or dad say they are scared they will be forced to sell in 2026, reassure them with the facts. There is no enacted law that forces sales. Encourage them to seek financial advice from a qualified advisor who understands Social Security law. Because here's the simple truth. Policy risk exists in every system, but panic selling a family home because of speculation could create more financial
harm than any rumored reform. Selling turns an exempt asset into an accessible one that can reduce pension payments unless the decision is structured carefully. That is why every choice must be strategic. Let us imagine another scenario. John and Helen are both 72. They own a $950,000 home in Brisbane and hold $300,000 in financial assets. They receive a part pension. If they voluntarily downsize to a $650,000 unit and invest the remaining $300,000, that extra money becomes accessible under the assets test. Their pension could reduce. However, if they use downsizer super contributions in a strategic way, they may improve their long-term retirement income. The situation is complex, and complexity is often mistaken for conspiracy. So here's the balanced view. There is an ongoing national conversation about housing efficiency and retirement sustainability. There are aged care funding reforms. There are superannuation policy adjustments. But there is no confirmed 2026 law that automatically forces pensioners to sell their homes. If that ever changed, it would be front-page news across every major Australian outlet, not just social media posts. As we move closer to 2026, the things you should monitor are federal budget announcements. Major pension changes are typically introduced during budget season, not quietly in the middle of the year. And remember, changes usually affect future applicants more than people who are already receiving payments. Let us close the loop on the big question that started this video. Are pensioners being forced to sell their homes in 2026? No, not under current law. Could policy debates continue? Yes. Should seniors stay informed? Absolutely. But fear should never replace facts. Your home remains protected under the Age Pension Assets Test today. And if changes are ever proposed, they will go through public consultation, political debate, and staged implementation. On Australia Pension Hub, our mission is simple. We cut through the
panic. We explain policy clearly, and we protect Australian seniors with facts. If this video helped you feel more confident and less confused, please share it with someone who needs the same reassurance. The truth is powerful, and informed seniors are empowered seniors. If you have stayed with me all the way to the end, thank you. Subscribe to Australia Pension Hub right now if you have not already done so. Hit the like button, leave a comment with any questions you still have, and turn on the notification bell so you catch every future update. Stay informed, stay prepared, and most importantly, stay calm and confident about your retirement future. I will see you in the next video.